All right. Looks like we're all here. Good morning. I'm pleased to be here today and joined by my colleague, PA Laura Smith. Also honored to be standing with Lynn McClellan, the Vice President of Royal Canadian Legion, Ontario Provincial Command, as well as retired Lieutenant Commander Rob Francis of the Vimy Foundation and Brigadier-General Julian Chapman of Wounded Warriors. With Remembrance Week beginning tomorrow and Indigenous Veterans Day on November 8th, I'm pleased to announce the introduction of new legislation, the Honoring Veterans Act 2024, which I will be introducing on behalf of our government later today. Ontario is home to almost 150,000 veterans of various ages, and that number is steadily growing as members are released from military service each year. Through their bravery and selflessness, veterans have protected our values, defended our rights and freedoms, and shaped our nation's history. The Honoring Veterans Act reaffirms our government's commitment to supporting veterans and their families while recognizing the extraordinary courage and profound sacrifices they have made across our province. For generations, veterans here in Ontario and across Canada have long contributed to the safety, strength, and prosperity of our province, both during and after their service. They have served our country with pride and distinction to protect the rights and freedoms we hold so dear. That is why our government is proposing amendments to the Remembrance Week Act to honor and recognize all veterans, to not only include those who gave their lives, but all those who have served our country. In order to better recognize the contributions that veterans have made both during and after their service, we are proposing to rename Remembrance Week to Remembrance Day and Veterans Week. This will make Ontario a leader among provinces across Canada in legislating Veterans Week. We are also proposing a new section to the Remembrance Week Act that would honor veterans through recognition efforts, including bestowing awards. This would be a first-of-its-kind provincial recognition in Ontario, specifically celebrating veterans who have made significant contributions in their communities. To that end, I am pleased to share that our government will be partnering with the Royal Canadian Legion Ontario Provincial Command, who is in attendance with us here today. Partnering on this award will be the first provincial award in Ontario specifically recognizing veterans. While it is important to us as Ontarians to recognize veterans who have made significant contributions in their communities, we must also be unequivocal in our condemnation of those who lie or misappropriate their military service, which is why we intend to make further changes to the Remembrance Week Act to enhance awareness and condemn any and all acts of stolen valor. Veterans deserve our utmost respect. That is why our government will always condemn those who falsely seek recognition by wearing uniforms, medals, or decorations to which they are not entitled. Not only is this a serious offense punishable under law, but it detracts from the honor of those who actively serve the country. As we mark the beginning of Remembrance Week tomorrow, I encourage all Ontarians to learn more about the contributions of veterans across the province, visit a war museum or a memorial, and donate to the Poppy campaign. Now I'm pleased to call up PA Laura Smith to share more about the importance of proposing further support to veterans and their families. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to Minister McGregor for your warm introduction, and thank you for standing up for veterans. I'd also like to recognize our veterans and their family members who are joining us here today. You know, veterans have played a pivotal role in securing our nation's past and future, and I know the incredible sacrifices that you've made firsthand. So my father joined the Air Force after a family home had been bombed in London during WW2. He enlisted at such a young age and went on to serve as the cleanup crew to WW2 and bore witness to the horror of concentration camps firsthand. By the way, if anybody's doing any math, he had me much later in life. And I value the service above self that my father embodied as that has been passed through my family from generations to generations. My grandfather served in the Great War, and later in life he would settle in High Park, bringing his war bride to join him. And my uncle, he was a tank man, a Sherbrooke Fusilier who was wounded on D-Day, and because of that, lived with the scars of shrapnel throughout his back for most of his life. So when I get to join veterans in their communities, in their Legion halls and service clubs across this province, I'm not just another politician. I'm truly touched by each of your unique stories and full of gratitude for the tremendous sacrifices you've made for our country. That deep connection is what led Minister Michael Ford and I to meet with the Royal Canadian Legion, the National Council of Veteran Associations of Canada, Canadian Forces Morale and Welfare Services, and other veteran-focused organizations. So we spoke about how we can create more awareness of veterans' contributions and the challenges that they face in transition to civilian life, and ways our government can continue to support them. With nearly 150,000 veterans in Ontario, it's so important that their lifelong contributions to our country are honoured. The feedback we received from our meetings last August is something we really took to heart, and it's part of what brought us here today. The Honouring Veterans Act 2024 builds on our government's work to recognize and support our heroes for their sacrifices and ongoing contributions to our country. Through today's legislation, our government is supporting veterans to build better lives for themselves and their families. And while we can never truly repay the soldiers who fought for our freedoms, we can still show our gratitude at every opportunity. Thank you. I'd now like to turn it over to Lynn McClellan from the Royal Canadian Legion.
Good morning, everyone. I bring you greetings today on behalf of our Provincial President, Comrade Derek Moore, and all of the senior elected officers and staff at Ontario Command. I am most grateful for the opportunity to be here representing the 95,000 members of the Royal Canadian Legion branches located in 390 cities and towns from Windsor to Cornwall and as far north as Thunder Bay. The Legion branches of Ontario Command are excited to be working with the Government of Ontario, recognizing veterans who were willing to sacrifice their lives to protect ours, and to this day continue to volunteer their services throughout their communities. Beyond the number of veterans who are members of the Legion, there are also thousands of veterans in the province who have served in more recent wars or conflicts, peacekeeping missions, or reservists who reside in Ontario in many of our communities. Although they may not have joined the Legion, they must also be recognized for their service, both while serving their country and volunteering in their communities after their return. Thank you once again for inviting me here today. We look forward to working with the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism in the future. And now I would like to introduce retired Lieutenant Commander retired Rob Francis to speak.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Lieutenant Commander retired Rob Francis. I proudly served Canada over a 20-year career in the Royal Canadian Navy. I'm honored to be here today at Queen's Park to bring attention to Ontarians and the importance of the role that our soldiers, sailors, airmen and women serve in defense of the values that we as a nation hold sacred. In 2002, I was deployed to the Persian Gulf in response to the attacks of September 11th. Our mission was to search suspicious boats for weapons, drugs, money, anything that may aid the Taliban or Al-Qaeda in their mission to harm Western society and their own people. It was during this time that the significance of what I was doing clicked for me. It was my mother's elementary school who would send me handmade cards of support about once a month. Beyond my enjoyment of reading these letters, it was a profound moment in my life when I realized how connected we are as Canadians. Here were little kids thousands of miles away writing wonderful messages of support to me. I'm not even sure that they knew who or why they were writing them, but it really didn't matter. It was the idea that these kids were learning that there were other Canadians out in the world defending the privileges that they take for granted. It's critical that we maintain this connection between the work that our military members do, our veterans did, and the values that we must preserve. Opportunity, such as the opportunity to receive an education, and freedom, such as our freedom to say what we think and choose our representatives. These values are not guaranteed, and they must be protected. Everyone who put on the Canadian Armed Forces uniform made a commitment that asked them to potentially provide their life to preserve these values. Of course, this is not a minor commitment, and when their service is complete, it is up to all of us to continue to show regard for what that person sacrificed and was willing to sacrifice for something greater. 1 week from today is Remembrance Day. We are wearing our poppies. We will attend services across the province to pause and reflect upon the sacrifices that have been made so that we can live the lives we do. My ask to you, take a moment this week and share the importance of what our veterans have done for us with someone from a younger generation, ideally Gen Z, but of course anyone from a younger generation, to ensure that the gravity of what these people who came before us have done for our freedoms. We must not lose that connection. If that doesn't happen this week, when will it happen? To all Ontarians, let us continue to show gratitude to our veterans and those currently serving, not only with words, but with actions. Let's support them, respect them, and above all, remember them. Their courage is woven into the fabric of our communities, and their legacy is one we must carry forward with pride and gratitude. Thank you, and now I'd like to invite the Director of Wounded Warriors and Brigadier-General Julian Chapman to speak.
Thanks, Rob. Great remarks. I'm truly honored to be here today to have the opportunity to address you. Remembrance Week is a very powerful and profound time for all veterans. Like many of my peers, I don't consider myself a veteran, although for 34 years of my life, I served my queen and country. To us, veterans were the old and bold, the souls of the greatest generation, those who fought in the world wars, but times have changed. Canadian soldiers, sailors, and air crews have seen the many challenging circumstances since those great wars, whether on peacekeeping operations, the war in Afghanistan, or even facing the demands of domestic operations. Most soldiers I know are humble. They did or are merely doing what they have felt called to do, to serve. They have always had the backs of Canadian society and should be celebrated every day. But Remembrance Week is a special time of reflection. It is the time where the nation has an opportunity to give back to those who gave so much. What is important is that the efforts of those who have given their all for their nation be acknowledged. That is why the announcement today is so important. It is a recognition of the nature of sacrifice for the greater good. Today's announcement means so much because it acknowledges the nature of that sacrifice, the cost of service, both seen and unseen. The war in Afghanistan reminded us that not all injuries are visible. It taught us to see beyond the fallen and to recognize all who served, including those who live with the invisible wounds of duty and stresses of service. Theirs is a sacrifice too. When the public recognizes the efforts of their veterans by wearing a poppy or attending a service, you are honoring those wounded in body and spirit. It's a way of saying, we see you, we remember. The province of Ontario is doing that with these announcements. You are helping the healing of those who gave their today for your tomorrow. We at Wounded Warriors Canada have seen the unseen wounds and their toll on not just veterans, but also their families. That is the raison d'etre for our charity, to honor the fallen and help the living. We have expert clinicians who can help and who have dedicated themselves to supporting our veterans and support networks through their dark days. So my final point is, for those veterans out there struggling this week, I urge you to reach out. There are a multitude of programs and people to extend the hand and carry the torch with you. Reach out to your battle buddies and get help. You deserve it. You have paid a tremendous price. No one should suffer in silence. We are all here for you. Just as you had a brotherhood and sisterhood in your days of service, you have a fire team backing you up. We are in this together. Thank you for the opportunity to express what is often inexpressible. Thank you for helping us remember those who gave so much for our nation and province. We can never forget. Now I will pass back to Minister McGregor for closing remarks and any questions.
Thank you. Thank you to all of our organizations that were here today, and thank you to the media for covering our announcement. I want to give a special shout out as well to the Honourable Michael Ford, who today I'm acting as a Minister of Citizenship and Multiculturalism. A lot of the work that we're seeing in this bill was put forward by Minister Ford, and he's on his leave of absence now for health reasons, but we're hoping he's back with us soon. And just tremendous gratitude for all the work that he's done. And special thank you to PA Laura Smith, Lynn, McClellan, Rob Francis, and Julian Chapman for sharing your stories with us. Together, we will ensure that veterans receive our unwavering respect and recognition for their extraordinary courage and pivotal role in securing the safety of the nation. I want to thank you, and thank you to all veterans for your service, your dedication, and sacrifice to this country. We can never in my view, fully thank those who served our country, but that doesn't mean we can't try. And today, with the bill that I'll be tabling later today, is a solid effort by the government to do our best to make sure that we're thanking those for their service, both during their serving years, but also when they come home. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions. Okay. Thank you very much.